the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. So in this episode of the podcast, I'd like to feature a recent conversation with old friends, Jonas Porcar Ferrer and Bhavin Patel. They have been on the podcast 3 times. This is their 4th appearance. We've invited them back to talk a little bit more about their ongoing experience in the Executive MBA program. Lots to cover in this conversation. You'll hear discussions about quarter 6, the classes that they took, Bhavin's trip to Europe. He went to Paris and Berlin as part of a global residency. Talk about Jonas's upcoming trip to India. He and Bhavin will travel together on that global residency. Lots to cover. Hopefully you've had a chance to listen to their earlier conversations, but if not, go back and check those out. The purpose of all of this is to give you a fairly comprehensive overview of just what it's like to be an executive format student here at Darden. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jonas Porcar Ferrer and Bhavin Patel. Jonas, Bhavin, welcome back to the podcast. This is the 4th installment of our ongoing conversation. I should note, it's the 4th installment, which has to kind of mean that the end is near. You know, we've been recording essentially every couple of quarters. Is that a good feeling? You've got, by my count, 3 more quarters to go. How's that feel, Jonas?
I can't believe it. We're so close to the end, or it's going downhill somehow, but I think we talked about this in the last episode, that it feels like, I don't know, it's great to be so close to graduation, but at the same time, I feel kind of sad because I can't believe it. We are that close to the end.
Yeah, I would agree, Jonas. I would say it's bittersweet. We were just up there on the roof deck, had a happy hour, just networking with the people, with the students in the class, and as much as work that we put in each and every week, it all, makes it worth it every time I'm come here on the on-grounds and talk to my team and my learning team and just talk to students, in my cohort. So it's a bittersweet moment.
Yeah, it's worth noting. It's nice to be on a roof in the Washington, D.C. metro area here in late September. We benefit from the view. It still doesn't come through on the podcast. We are on the 30th and 31st floor of an office tower in Northern Virginia here in Roslyn, and you can see pretty much all of DC from here. So come for a class visit if for the view, for no other reason but the view. So let's get started. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a couple quarters since we last talked. So quarter 6, quarter 7. So let's talk about what quarter 6 was like. What courses did you take in quarter 6?
Well, we took ethics. We also took explorations in enterprise leadership, and FMP, which is finance. Bhavin went to Europe.
Yeah, so Q6 also had, while I was in Europe, we had ethics, financial management, and policies, as well as leadership exploration course. And I'll tell you more about my experiences in just in a minute.
All right. So should note, you've been hearing a lot. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know now that Bhavin has been to Brazil, China, and Europe. Jonas has been sort of steady here in the U.S., but his time is coming. Quarter 8, you will get to travel together to India. Before we really dive into quarter 6, I want to ask a quick question about quarter 8, the India trip. Bhavin, are you excited about going to India?
I'm super excited to go to India. Obviously, for a couple of reasons. I have family there. I was born there, but just go back with this great group of individuals and be able to show them around and just to be able to hang out with them and learn more in the country. And I hear we have some great companies visit planned, so I'm definitely really excited for that.
Yeah, 2 cities, right? Mumbai and Delhi. Jonas, your time has come.
Yeah, finally. After all these quarters, staying here and hearing about the stories on the global, folks that were traveling around the world, I'm really excited to be in India. I've been in Asia once, just in China, and never been to India before, and really excited.
How did you pick India?
Well, I've been to China before. Of course, I'm from Spain, so I've traveled around Europe, and Brazil was a little bit early in the program for me. And India is also, a good fit for me because I work in IT and technology, and India, it's growing so fast on those fields, and it was a really interesting trip for me.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's go back to quarter 6. So one of the courses that you mentioned that caught my ear was ethics. And Darden, it's there in the mission statement. It's about training responsible leaders through transformational learning experience. Responsible leaders, sort of ethics is a required part of our curriculum in both the residential program as well as the executive program. Jonas, what did you get out of that class? Is it a class that you enjoyed? Was it thought-provoking?
I was really excited about ethics, and I remember in LR1, like we had this sneak peek on ethics with our first class, and I think that was one of the deciding factors that made me really apply for Darden, because it has a strong focus on training and ethical leaders. So that was one of the key deciding factors for me, and what really gives the course gives you is like a framework. So whenever you face like a business decision, you can take into consideration ethics. So you can dissect the whatever decision you're facing or any problem, and identify ethical issues, being character issues or related to codes of conduct, or think about the consequences or the relationships that may affect. So it's really, you won't get to at the end of each case, it's not that you're going to get, this is the right decision. So, but you'll be able to ask the right questions. And it really depends on the company you're working or on your personal, moral standards. So there's no right or wrong at the end of, specifically in ethics. And I really feel way more prepared to bring those issues, whenever I face decisions or situations at work right now.
How about you, Bhavin? How do you feel like what you learned in ethics framework, the approach that you got, helps you in the work that you're doing?
Well, Brett, if you look at the news these days, you hear so much about ethical, bad decisions being unethical decisions being made, and this class pretty much, helps you become a much better, ethical leader by providing, we discuss so many cases in which we are discussing companies and individuals and the decisions that they've made. And we're not being judgmental. We're just assessing why did the person or the company took the route that they did. And then we get to hear from our classmates, what would they have done given the context and the circumstances, right? Because hindsight is 20/20. So by understanding, the context at the time and, understanding what consequences your decision could have and how others would view that, I think just gives me a safe space to practice my decision-making skills before I go out and practice that in real world in my current job. So I think it provides a very psychologically safe space for me to exercise that option. And I loved the ethics course. Professor Vicks did a great job in making sure that we had a nice cross section of cases from across the industry. So I definitely loved the course.
You're right about the sort of lack of judgment. Trying to understand in the context. I think one of the things that a lot of people talk to me about what they get out of the learning experience here at Darden is it gives you a lot of empathy for other people, how other people think about problems. When you read about protagonists and the positions they're in and the pressure they're under, and they're trying to make decisions with incomplete information, maybe it makes you a little bit less certain about exactly what you would do and exactly what the right answer is. Jonas, has that been your experience?
It really resonates because in many classes you start thinking, you prepare the case, you read it, and you think, okay, this is what I would do. But by the end of the class, oh no, I wouldn't say I was so grown, but okay, this comment that this guy said or all this discussion led me to think on really completely reframe the issue. And right now, I think I would do the opposite thing, or I don't know. So it's really mind blowing sometimes how really you can really change or just looking at an issue or a problem in from different perspectives and hearing your classmates talking about it, or the discussions that were brought up in class really make you think about it and really change your position.
Yeah, I mean, as Jonas said, you're just looking at the situation through a different lens, and being under extreme pressure, how would you deal with that? Situation. When you have enough time, we all gonna make the best decision. But when you're under that pressure, in those situations where you don't have the counsel of others, right? When you don't have 60 of your other, students, your counterparts helping you, if you're the leader, CEO, what decision are you going to make? And it just kind of prepares you, for that real world.
So you also took financial management practices, I believe, FMP as it's known. Jonas, you had a course in exploration and enterprise leadership. I can say that correctly. Bhavin, traveling the globe as he was in Europe, he had the sort of global equivalent to that course. Let's talk about Jonas, the course that you had. Very interesting one, led by an economist from the World Bank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so far we've taken a couple of courses on economics and economy, but we've been focusing mostly on mature, advanced economies, and thinking about how to model economic growth in the short and medium term. But this course was really interesting because it was focused more on the emerging markets and on emerging and frontier markets, and which factors really determine the long-term growth in terms of GDP per capita. So we talk about India, we talk about different emerging economies all around the world, and how they need to build human capital. So education is a key factor, of course, technology. We talk about the growth potential and how can they sustain this growth, and how the World Bank and other multilateral banks support this growth. But it was really interesting. We work in groups. We had to work on a couple of countries, on different regions, and study their economic evolution and the outlook into the future. And I don't know, I love the economic courses in the first quarter. So this was really, really fantastic for me, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
What was the big takeaway for you from that course?
For me, it was for example, the institutions play having solid institutions, independent institutions, really makes a difference in a country. We see it in the news constantly. So, and also how important is education really determines the future of a country, and how important it is to invest on that, thinking long term, which doesn't always happen. Our politicians sometimes think 4 years, 8 years, but it's important as a country, any country in the world, that really needs to look into the future and really invest in having a highly educated workforce that really, and also that with that research and development brings new technology, and that can give you an edge into the future and guarantee a higher standard of living for your population.
And so, Bhavin, as discussed, you were in Western Europe, Paris and Berlin. You were taking core classes while you were there. You were also having experiences outside the classroom. Let's talk a little bit about some of those experiences. What did you see? What did you do while you were in these locations?
So, Brett, talk about immersive experience and experiential learning, right? I mean, this it doesn't get any better than this. So we went to Berlin first, and we were able to visit a couple of sites. So we visited the Brandenburg Gate, which is a symbol of division of Germany and the country's reunification, and is Berlin's most visited landmarks. We were also able to visit Checkpoint Charlie, the Berlin Wall, the Cathedral Church, as well as the Berlin TV Tower. In terms of company visits, we were able to visit a design firm, which is owned by one of the top consulting companies in the world, And this design firm they work with multinational clients, and we were able to actually see firsthand by one of the directors their approach to design thinking and how they work with their clients. And to top it off, we had dinner at the Reichstag, or they call it Bundestag, which is House of German Empire in the 1800s, 1900s. And it's a parliament building. It's a very beautiful glass building, and we had a dinner there, and a lot of historical value to all the sites we visited. So overall, Berlin was amazing. And from there, we went to Paris, France. In terms of sites, I mean, obviously we visited the Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe. We saw the beautiful Seine River. From company visit, we were really excited and really grateful that we got to visit Station F, as they call it. Now, this is Europe's largest business incubator. It has over 600 rooms, 30 plus startup programs. And it's pretty much a space for entrepreneurs to come and grow their companies, acquire capital, pitch their businesses, ideas. Then from Paris, we went to a couple of miles northwest of Paris to a small little town called Giverny. If you're into art, you heard of Monet. He's a renowned French impressionist. Who's inspired many artists all across the world, and this was his hometown, and we were able to see his house that he lived in. Has a beautiful garden and a pond, so it was a beautiful French countryside that we got to visit for about a half a day. And we also visited a company which is a travel retail company. It has over 4,600 stores in 270 airports across 35 countries. We actually got to hear directly from the CEO and the COO regarding their strategy and their business model and their approach to winning customers in this, very competitive environment that they work in. And also for the ladies out there, we also got to hear from a spokesperson from Christian Louboutin. Christian Louboutin is a very high-end French brand. They primarily make high-end footwear and high-end bags, and they're known for their signature red sole. So I'm sure the ladies listening, they probably recognize the brand. And we were able to hear from one of the spokespersons about their challenges that they face as a company as well as the industry, specifically around acquiring customers and some of the fake goods that they're encountering in the fashion industry. And we also got to hear about the company and the culture and how it all started. So. Overall, it was a great experience, and I'd never been to Europe prior to this, so it was really, really interesting to visit both Germany and France in terms of culture. I experienced a lot of good things because prior to this, I'd only heard about these great countries. So it was really good to see both countries and experience it firsthand.
So I understand at Station F. Some of the companies pitched to the students, pitched to you and your classmates. You had a chance to sort of hear some of it. Was an opportunity for them to practice, maybe to sharpen their pitches a little bit. Is that correct? Is rumor true?
Absolutely. So I actually felt like a shark. It was actually really cool. I felt like I was in a Shark Tank, They actually had a couple of speakers, very, very passionate individuals, talented entrepreneurs, who pitched their actual products and actual companies, as if they would pitch in a Shark Tank, if they were in the U.S. So it was really interesting to hear their stories and their beginnings and where they're going. And Station F in general is a huge complex. I've never seen anything like this. I think that's the biggest probably in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And the amount of, you see, companies, very major national companies, from Silicon Valley actually going there and helping entrepreneurs there. So, it was very very refreshing to see the entrepreneur scene over there, that they're really doing the French government is really encouraging entrepreneurship in the country and providing all the resources for these small businesses so that they can take off and become national and even multinational companies.
All right. So that was quarter 6, which brings us naturally to quarter 7, present day. It's an exciting quarter. I believe you're taking marketing, leading organizations, or in the alphabet soup of the Executive MBA program, what's known as LO. For those of you listening, there's a whole world of abbreviations that potentially await you in this program. We don't call it economics; we call it GEM. We don't call it finance; we call it F&P. We don't call it leading organizations; we just call it LO. Marketing is, I think, shortened to. Well, people still call it marketing, but I think it gets written out as like MKT or something like that. So here we are: marketing, leading organizations, and an elective. So your first opportunity to take an elective, you had the choice between negotiations and entrepreneurial thinking. In the discussion that we always have before we start recording these things, you both mentioned that you were taking entrepreneurial thinking. Jonas, let's start with you.
Sure.
What made you think, like, this class, this is the one I should take? What led you to entrepreneurial thinking?
First I was attracted by Professor Ferrer, which I've been reading about him, and I know one of the big stars here in Darden, and I wanted to experience what it is to be in class with him. And also, it's not that I have in mind like starting my own business right now, but I think it's a great course as entrepreneurship 101, let's call it like that, because it really drives you through. It doesn't get really deep, but it really talks to you about the sources of capital, how to choose in your partners, the importance of the vision. So we go over different cases on entrepreneurship, and you can really get a taste of what it is to be an entrepreneur and all the things that you need to have in mind. And it's not that I have something in mind right now, but it's something that someday maybe I would like to try to be an entrepreneur. I've been in startups before, and I thought it could be fun just to discuss that and really deep dive on that.
So Bhavin, same for you, entrepreneurial thinking. As Jonas noted, Greg Fairchild is pretty much a big deal. Mostly because he was the first guest on the Executive MBA podcast. But in all seriousness, last year, Poets and Quants, Professor of the Year, the Director for DC initiatives here in the Washington, D.C., obviously D.C. area, for the Darden School, and also for the University of Virginia. He's a Darden alum, has a PhD, and he's an incredible person. What led you to this class?
Yeah, so I had heard about Professor Fairchild from one of my friends who had attended the full-time program, and he had told me that if you get the chance and the course is offered, you definitely want to pretty much take any course that's offered by that's being taught by Professor Fairchild. And I am I love entrepreneurship, although I'm not an entrepreneur right now. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So knowing that this course is focused on not launching the actual venture, but more about just figuring out a journey, potential challenges that entrepreneur faces. That was really interesting to me. So, for example, today, matter of fact, today we had a very well-renowned Darden alum. He's done very well for him financially, and we had him as a guest speaker in Professor Fairchild's class, and we were able to hear firsthand challenges that he faced early on into building his almost $1 billion company now. So, to be able to hear from somebody like that, and then have a discussion around, what it took to get the venture off the ground, the risk that he faced, and the, resiliency that, he brought to the table, and, the deal making technique that he uses. To me, these are the things that I want to know, right? And I don't want to have to fail 10 times. If somebody's already done this, I would like to emulate that process. And that's the reason I took this course, and I'm absolutely enjoying it.
So you also have marketing and LO. Are you enjoying those courses as well? If I recall from our earlier conversations, not a lot of marketing in either of your backgrounds. So is that a course that stretches you? Is it all new to you, Jonas? Does it feel familiar? I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, I come from an engineering background, but it's something that I probably learned it the hard way. So sometimes engineers will think that, marketing, you have a good product, you don't really need marketing, but it's a very wrong idea. So no, I think it's very interesting. We'll, talking about the classical, like the price, the product, the promotion. Also interesting, like for example, how to value a brand, how to build a brand, what's the value of a customer. So I think it's just the first part of the course. We'll take the other part in upcoming semester quarter. But so far so good. Like the cases are really interesting, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I work on business development, and so marketing is really essential for me. And it's not just having a good product or service; it's just really being able to making it attractive to my customers. So I'm really not just enjoying the course, but really applying what I'm learning. So it's a big hit for me.
How about you, Bhavin? Are you enjoying marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in operations and recently in finance. So marketing to me was actually very foreign, and I was really intrigued by the different techniques that are out there. I obviously research on my own, but for me, just understanding how to go about defining a segment, how to segment a market. How do you do that? What's the first step in the process when you have a product? Excuse me. How do you price a product? How do you capture the most value from your customer? How do you build that relationship, right? So, you hear a lot of these, big brands in the news these days, using these cutting edge marketing processes. I want to be able to understand the basics of it, right? So, when I do get into a role where I need to make those decisions, I want to be able to know the basics around, how to position a product, how to segment a market. So things like that really, set me up for success in the long term.
And so the other course that we haven't talked about yet is leading organizations. Mm-hmm. Leadership is one of these funny things where people sometimes tend to assume that it's just innate. Leaders. Can you really take a class on leadership? Obviously, at the Darden School, we have a certain opinion on that. We're a leadership school, essentially. If you look at everything that happens here. What's been your experience? Is this the second LO class that you've had? So this is the back half of it. What's been the value for you, Jonas, in this class?
Yeah, in this, for me, is just in the first part of it, maybe we focus more on the leadership style or what it takes to be a leader, or where should you focus. And this one is more about understanding your context. So, for example, we talk about how to drive change in an organization, how important it is to understand the culture of your company or organization and adapt to it. If you want to change it, how to do it. We also talk about different organizational structures and how they affect really the relationships between the different stakeholders in a company, and the different management styles that can apply to those. So it's really practical, and it really helps you understand different dynamics in your company, and I think that they're really interesting tools. So back to your question, okay, of course, like some people have you can learn about leadership. It's not just something that some people are born with and some others don't. And it's really interesting to understand your environment and also understand yourself with, we also done this. So the different personality and how can you really adapt to your management style to different situations.
How about you, Bhavin? What's been the value of this LO class?
Yeah, so for me, when I chose Darden, one of the reasons I chose Darden was it's focused on ethics and leadership, right? It's that general management. I do believe that by taking LO, leading organization, it does prepare me to be a better leader. So, for example, in this quarter, as Jonas mentioned, we focused. A portion of the course is focused on the organization structure, right? And by understanding the different structures that are out there, and each company has its own structure, right? Hybrid matrix. There is this new structure called holacracy, which is seems to be where some of the organizations are testing or at least moving towards. So prior to the taking a course, I wouldn't have really noticed that, right? So for me, for somebody who wants to be a C level leader in the future, these are the things I need to know about it right now. So I can observe what's going on in my organization. I can observe what's going on around the industry, seeing what works, what's not working. And when I'm in that position to make this decision, I'll have a lens through which I can look and make a decision confidently, knowing that I've assessed everything that there is to assess, right? So if I had known about some of these organizational structures that are out there, I would have, I potentially one could make a bad decision. So it helps you, consider all your options, put all the options on the table, and then make a very informed decision based on that. So I'm very grateful for that course.
All right. So that brings us basically to current state. I want to ask you about the elective period, though, because I believe you probably already made some choices about what courses you're going to be taking in quarter 9 and 10, or at least, that's starting to take shape. Jonas, let's start with you.
Sure.
What are you thinking about, from an elective standpoint? You get to take 6 across those 2 quarters combined. What do you have planned?
Well, I have merger and acquisitions. So because I really enjoyed this second part of finance, and we had this module on how to value a company, and I think it's a natural continuation to that course. And also talking about marketing that we were discussing, there's this trip to San Francisco, which I'm enrolled. So it's marketing technology products. So I work in technology, so it really fits. And we're going to Silicon Valley, so I'm really excited about that. Also, I'm taking one with Connie Dunlop on coaching, which is, that was one of my favorite courses, the one we did with her in the previous quarters. I'm also taking one in supply chain. I also talk about institutions. There's one with Georgios.
Yorgos.
Yeah, exactly. On financial institutions, and I was really impressed about this professor also in LR1. I'm really excited to, and also I like that back to our EL course, like the importance of the institutions and regulation. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm combining finance, marketing. So it's great that in these final quarters you can really customize your Darden experience based on what you've really enjoyed, on what you're mostly interested into. Looking into the future. So I'm really excited about this next quarters too.
I'm starting to think your entire class is going to San Francisco for this. I think it's everybody,
like a 30 people trip or something like that.
Man,
right?
I must be talking to everybody who's going to San Francisco for this course, because I feel like everyone I've spoken to this weekend is going to San Francisco. Funny story about that class. Last year it was offered to residential and executive format students. Executive format students signed up in such droves, they just decided to make it an executive MBA elective, which is great. So you get to spend more time with Raj, who is your marketing professor this quarter. Obviously great. You get to be in San Francisco with your classmates, which I think when you go on that trip, it starts to feel it has a certain sentimental quality. You're all together, obviously in an interesting place doing incredible things. And I don't think anybody's ever forgotten a class that they've had with Yorgos, I'll be honest. I just interviewed a class of 2021 member, and she was talking about how his teaching SafariCom made such an incredible impression. He's very, for those of you who are obviously, describing something that's very difficult to describe. You should come and experience for yourself. Very theatrical, huge presence up and down the classroom, calling on people left and right. Always a lot of wit and humor as well. Might grill a couple people, but in a good natured way. But fantastic professor. And he's taught in executive format students for a number of years. So it sounds like you have a couple of exciting quarters. So Bhavin, how about you? What do you have planned?
Yeah, so for me, I really had, did some reflection in terms of my career, and I identified some gaps. And I want to make sure I fill those gaps, with the electives that are being offered. So I'm taking M&A, mergers and acquisitions, which I'm really excited about actually, because I never have done any work in private equity. But as I took FMP, finance 1 and 2, that's something I really actually like in it. And I work in finance right now. So, I would like to understand more about, how to value company and, when you're thinking about acquiring a company or, thinking about mergers, how do you go about doing that? So I'm really excited about that. And also taking global supply chain management with Jonas. Having background in operations, I think this just complements my experience. And I'm also taking leadership coaching with Connie. I mean, you can see, right? All the star professors. So leadership coaching for me is big because that's something that's going to stay with me long term. Quant is great. Marketing is great. Those are the skills that you need, the hard skills that you need. But also, I want to make sure that I, have some tools in my, toolkit that are also, around, helps me become a better leader around, leadership and developing those, qualities in me. So I've kind of blended both to make sure I have somewhat of a balance between quant and, qualitative course load.
Connie Dunlop, friend of the podcast, was obviously incredible. She leads the professional advancement course, Jonas, the course you were referring to. One of the exciting innovations for our class of 2021. Curious y'all's reaction to this. PAC is now in quarter 1.
I saw them because I was around in the first residency, and I saw Connie, what are you doing here? Like, no, it's a first quarter course. I think it's a great idea. I think it was one of the comments around our cohort. It was like, I wish I had taken this course before. Like, it makes total sense because it really drives you toward your goal, professionally, and you can really build that along your 2 years in Darden. It makes total sense for me.
Yeah, I agree with Jonas. I think of Connie's leadership coach. Connie's a professional advancement course as a compass. So prior to really, hitting the road and starting your Darden full course load, you want to kind of calibrate yourself and have the true north figure out before you get too much into the program. So I think having that up front, make sure your compass is truly pointing north, whatever your true north is. And I think that course, does that for me. At least it did it for me. And I think a lot of the people I talk to, they have the same sentiment, and they would agree that that course really helped them define exactly what they wanted from the program, what they want out of that, the current career path they're on, and what they want to be after graduation or even during the program. Maybe you want to switch careers, maybe you want to climb up the ladder, or maybe you want to just shift everything and just launch and be your own venture, right? So that course really helps you calibrate what you really want to do in the next 21 months, or at least did it for me.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because we know for all of our students the decision to come get an MBA at this point in their career. And this is a professional decision. This is in service of real career goals. And what better way to engage with those goals and to engage with your path than to have that course up front. And it creates the opportunity to do sort of sequence programming that builds from that PAC course. So we're really excited about it. We think it's a big part of the value proposition of the program. And I think one of the really positive stories over the past 3-4 years is the steady building of career-related support and programming here. It's about Jim Collins and Sarita Soltz and Kellogg Lilleveld, but also Connie and the work that she is doing, leadership coaching that's happening, the vision of Jim Dieter. It's all around supporting students as they take the next step, and ideally the next few steps in their career. So Jonas and Bhavin, I have to say I also am getting a little sentimental. Here we are in quarter 7. I'll see you next at quarter 9, and the end will really be
Charlottesville or here?
We'll find some time. Don't worry. Okay. Yeah, don't worry. We'll find some time. But all that's to say, I have learned so much from what you shared here. I am certain our listeners have as well. I'm maybe going to ask the same question I ask everybody. We're getting started with the new admission cycle. We've got some new applicants working on applications. Any tips? Anything that you would share?
I think that I've mentioned it before, but I think that a great tip for me is just to come to Darden for one of these residencies for a weekend, attend to a class, so you can really grasp what it is to one of the case method and the dynamics of a class because I think that really is what makes a difference in one of the big difference of this business school is that it's such a great methodology. And especially for us, for executive students, that we have longer backgrounds, and I mean, I think that would it was such an important factor for me just to see what the case methodology, and I think that would be like the starting point. Come here, attend a class, and then just think about it. Yeah.
I agree with Jonas. There is so much focus on case method. I don't want prospective students to get anxiety, right? When I remember being in their shoes, when I was doing researching MBA programs, and I would say that experience a class, talk to one of us, talk to people who attended Darden, and reach out to Brett. You have a lot of resources to really help you make this decision. But case method, by far, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. There's so much that I learned about myself and about my, classmates by, learning through this method. So definitely recommend, you reaching out and scheduling a class visit so you can experience for yourself, right? And this is an investment that you're making, both in terms of time and money. So definitely experience that yourself. And, I'm hoping that you'll, get a lot of value out of this.
So a quick plug for the class visit. Everybody who visits an Executive MBA class this year gets an application fee waiver to apply to the Executive MBA program. So a little bit of a material incentive that we feel that strongly about the class visit experience. So for those of you listening who are on the fence, $250, if you're coming from Philadelphia, that's a good, at least a little bit more than a train ticket will cost for you to get down, or gas if you're going to drive. So we think it's worth the time. And hopefully that sweetens the deal a little bit.
And it's not just the class that you can hang out with us. And I think it's really useful just to talk to current students because at the end of the day, you want to hear about, from our experience. Right now, I'm talking, of course, in first person, our experience. And we always get these questions about how to handle, we combine our personal life, how to, all this juggling that we need to do. And I think it's very useful and to hear about current students to talk about that. I think it makes a difference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for being here on the night shift at Sands Family Grounds. I should note the sun was out when we started. It is now dark outside. This is obviously a full weekend of classes. You're doing yeoman's work here after hours, sharing your experiences. As I mentioned, I always learn something. I know it's true for our prospective students. So thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Bhavin. Have a great residency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
And that was my conversation with Jonas Porcar Ferrer and Bhavin Patel, 2 second-year students in our Executive MBA class of 2020. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXEC, MBA, at darden.virginia.edu. Until next time, thanks for listening.